Welcome, everyone, to the first ever episode of the Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Michael O'Brien. This is our first ever episode, and we've got a very special guest today. We've got not only Big East regular season champion, but Big East tournament champion, and obviously NCAA tournament regular, Coach Kevin Willard. Coach, how are you doing today?
Good, Michael. Good to be here.
It's awesome to have you. How are you handling this quarantine? How's everything going?
Well, it's going okay. It's one of those things that, I'm trying to get in a routine. I'm so used to being in a routine every day and going to work, being with your team, getting a workout, practice. And now it's kind of like I'm stuck at home with my wife and my dog and my kids. And I think they really want me to get in a better routine than I've been in.
Right. How do you think that this kind of quarantine is going to change college basketball? Like, how's that going to look as a coach going forward?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that's going to hurt a lot of teams is the fact that you're not being able to work with your players as much as we've been able to. It's been something that's really been good for us is the fact that our summer program has really helped guys take a jump to the next level. And now you have your players, technically stuck inside at home, not being able to get to gyms, not being able to get to work. I think it's going to be quite different when they get back, but I also think it's going to be good for everybody because I think everyone I know for myself, and I know the players, all my players I've talked to, I think they've gotten a great sense of what it's like and how lucky they are to play college basketball and everything that comes with it.
And kind of a renewed hunger to get back on the court when this is all over, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know for me, I want to get in the gym and coach. I really miss interacting with my players and my staff. You spend 27 years in this sport, playing it or in coaching it, and you love that camaraderie. You love waking up and being with senior guys and being with them. So, the other side of that, I think is really good. Is I think a lot of these kids are getting some rest that they never would have gotten.
Right.
I think it's good for their bodies. They've been taking such a toll. The fact that they can be at home a little bit and maybe rest their bodies, I think it might be good for them in the long run.
I can see the passion and commitment you have to basketball when you just talk about your team there. I do have a question about when you first inherited the Seton Hall program. Obviously, myself being a longtime Seton Hall fan, we went to the games, but it wasn't a very proud situation where you kind of go to the game and the players didn't seem like they really had it. But when you came in, it seemed like there was a revolution and almost like you built a culture in Seton Hall. Can you just talk to me a little bit about how hard it is to build a culture rather than, let's say, a winning program?
Yeah, that's a good question, Michael, because it's not, there's so much pressure to win right away.
Right.
I was very lucky. I had great support. As you know, your father being a great supporter and a great friend of mine. And I had a great administration. I had Pat Lyons was my athletic director, who kind of knew the situation we were in, and he knew where we wanted to get to, and he also knew we were really close to getting to where we were. And I think to build a culture in today's climate, you need great support. And I was very lucky to have a great fan base that kind of understood and kind of saw where we had started, where I wanted to get this program to be on a yearly basis. But I had a great administration that kind of, never let me take shortcuts, never let me, make sure that we still were going to where we wanted to go. And I think the one thing it takes time to develop a really good culture. And I've had great players from the time I got here to the time I'm now, and finding the right mix to what makes Seton Hall successful and what makes your program successful, I think is very important. It's a lot of things a lot of guys don't talk about is, you have to figure out what your school is, where you are, what fits with, where you are. And it took me a couple of years to kind of figure out who we are and what we can be.
Right.
And once you kind of figure that out, then you can build on that and get the right type of personalities in your program to help build the culture.
Right. And then going on that, kind of like being a coach at a small school like Seton Hall and creating it almost into a household name this year, what is your pitch to a player who's getting offers from big time schools to come to a small school in New Jersey and play at Seton Hall?
Yeah, you know what, Michael, I think that there's three things that we really sell, and I think it's great for us. First of all, Seton Hall, this university as a whole is a very special place to be because I've always felt that everyone on campus, all the alumni, because we don't have football, they all want us to be successful. They want
Right.
every one of my players to be successful. Academically, it's why every kid's graduated, and on the basketball court and socially. I think it's a very unique culture that we have on this campus, is that they really want my guys to be successful. And they get the support academically, they get the support socially. And I think it's a very special place. And I use the word family, not very loosely, because so many people say it, but I think the Seton Hall family is a very special place. The second thing is we play in the best basketball conference in the country. I mean,
Yes, you do.
the Big East basketball conference. The games are so highly competitive. We have great coaches. We have great leadership in the league office with Val and Stu. Every game is nationally televised, and that's the third thing. We play in the greatest media market in the country with some of the greatest college basketball fans, even if they're not a Seton Hall fan. New Jersey and New York fans are so passionate about college basketball. And then we have a great television partner in Fox Sports, who every game's nationally televised. So whether you're coming from Missouri or you're coming from California, your family doesn't have to be at the game. They're going to be able to watch every game. And I think that's really helped the Big East brand more than anything, is the fact that, no matter what player comes from, they can be on national TV and their family and friends can see them play.
Right. Yeah, that's super special. I do have, so going on with that, it seems as though your track record with developing guards, at least from my point of view, has been one of the best, I think, in college basketball, from Jordan
Well, Mike, you
Theodore.
got to remember, I was such a great player.
I know, I was going to get into that as well. From Jordan Theodore in the later stage of his career at Seton Hall, to Fuquan Edwin, to Isaiah Whitehead, and now to Miles Powell. It seems as though you almost have what I would call, at least in the Big East, a very bulletproof record with creating guards into consistent scorers and also great defenders. And I just want to know, does that come from where you started as a player? Because I know you were a very good shooter when you as a player, and you were recruited to places like Western Kentucky, where you eventually transferred to University of Pittsburgh. So where does that kind of guard development come from, and kind of where do you start, and what kind of intangibles do you look for in a guard?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky, starting out the way I started out in this business was, I got to work with the Boston Celtics, and I got to work with, who I think, and I'm very biased, but who I think is the greatest college basketball coach of all time, and Rick Pitino. And when I worked for the Celtics, my first year was kind of, I was like the workout guy. You know,
Right.
I had to go to games early and get shots up with guys like Antoine Walker, Paul Pierce, Kenny Anderson, and I learned a lot in my 4 years with the Celtics about what the NBA guys do and what they work on and how they work on it. And
Right.
that always stuck with me, even to now. I still go back to drills that I did back then, because they do it at such a high level in the NBA. And then I got to work with Rick Pitino for the next 6 years at the University of Louisville, and he is by far, the greatest coach I've ever witnessed at developing players. And the reason why he's so great is that he's very passionate, as I am now, about player development.
Right.
And I say it now, and even now that he's back at Iona, he'll probably beat me out again. But we spend more time on individual instruction than any program in the country. We are passionate about it. It's what I believe in. That my job as a college coach is to get my players better first and foremost.
Right.
If my players are getting better, my team's going to get better. Kind of goes hand in hand. And by working with Coach Pitino and doing individual instruction every day for hours and hours, it really stuck with me that this is what my responsibility and this is what my job is as a college coach, is to make sure I'm getting my players better. And that's kind of what our philosophy as a program. And when kids come into our program, they know first and foremost, you're going to be working on your game every day, and we're going to do it. It's going to be fun. We're going to get better. And I think that's why our guys have gotten so much better.
I mean, even looking at this year, you seem to build this amazing kind of group camaraderie where the guys are fighting for each other. And even if there are scuffles, everyone comes together at once. Is there like certain activities you do to build that, or is that just through the workouts you do and the passion that you display that they kind of take that on?
Yeah, I think I think it's two things, Michael. I think one, it's the amount of time we spend with each other getting our games better. It's just not team activities, it's the
Right.
individual instruction. I think we do develop a different bond from players and coaches because, all my coaches and myself are so invested in them getting better. It's just not the team getting better. No, it's really us really buying into making sure they're getting better. I think that bond comes through. And I think I've always said it's my best recruiting pitch now is that I have a great group of guys.
Yeah.
Anybody coming into the program, your players spend so much time with you, but they spend so much time off the court with each other that having guys that understand why they're here, what they're trying to do, and having guys that have like-minded goals, I think that really helps develop a team mentality. And I think I'm very lucky right now because, I look up on my board and I see all my guys that we have. And, there's not one guy that I don't want to spend time with. There's not
Yeah.
one guy
Right.
that I wouldn't want to be living with me. So I think that helps it tremendously.
And then I do want to have some fun, and I do want to talk about Kevin Willard as a player. What kind of player was Kevin Willard? I know he had to be a lights out shooter
I was a
because
bad player.
was he a
No, it's
fiery
actually funny.
hothead?
No, it's actually funny. Being in quarantine, obviously my kids never saw me play. My kids never saw me with hair. Um, I went back and we've been watching all my old games. I still have on DVDs. I've been watching, trying to get, and I didn't realize how bad of a player I was until I coached some of the really good players that I've played.
Nah, you could have been that bad. You got
I
some
was,
pretty good offense. You played at some
I
good
was, I
schools.
was a, I was a scrappy little guard that was probably a little bit over my head in the Big East. I remember we watched a game where Allen Iverson and Victor Page, and I tried to guard Allen Iverson, and my son was like, "Oh my God, that's Allen Iverson." I said, "I know," and he went right by me and scored a layup. And both my kids just kind of looked at me. I was like, "I go, wait till next possession. We play zone the rest of the game."
Was he a player that talked trash, or were you kind of quiet, let your game do the talking?
No, I mean, I always say if you don't have the game to talk trash, you better shut up and just play hard. I just played really hard, took charges, dove on the floor. My job was to get the ball to the best players, and
Right.
I enjoyed that. I didn't mind the fact that I didn't really shoot that much. I like being out on the floor, and I loved making that pass to get my teammate a shot. That was my job, and I really enjoyed doing it. Great teammate. That was really what I wanted to be. As I wanted my guys to say, when I'm on the floor, they know they got a guy that's going to take a charge. He's going to make an extra pass. I wanted them to enjoy playing with me. And, I learned that from, a couple guys. Darren Horn, who I played with my freshman year at Western Kentucky, was such a great teammate. He was demanding, but I loved being on the floor with him because he always did all the right things. And I learned a lot from my brother when we were playing. When my brother was in high school, he was a senior, I was a freshman. Just watching how he played was really something I took a lot of. And then Billy Donovan, I watched a lot of Billy Donovan because he was a Long Island kid.
Right.
I was a Long Island kid. And his senior year in Providence and watching that run, I used to watch game film after game film of Billy Donovan because I just loved the way he played with his passion and how he made everybody better on the court.
Now, I've always wanted to ask players a turn coach. Is Kevin Willard as a player someone you would have wanted to have coach as a coach? Do you think he's a player that you would have recruited actively for your team and had him on your team, and someone that you would have wanted to,
You mean me in high school?
like you in high school, and then as a college player, see someone in college that
I
you would
wouldn't
have wanted to
I wouldn't be recruiting me in high school to come to Seton Hall. I'll tell you that much. No, I definitely. I was a very good high school basketball player. And now I look back at it and uh, I would love to recruit kids that played the way I did in high school.
Right.
And I try to do that. All my guys now are very similar to the way I was, just much better players and much
Mhm.
more skill. But I look at a guy like Jared Roden, who's on our team right now. Um, you know, in high school was a guy diving on the floor and taking charges. Obviously, a great athlete and a great player, but I love the energy and the intensity he brought to the game. Just guys on my roster are very similar personalities to the way I played. They're just much better players, thankfully.
Yeah. Thankfully. So you've had a career that kind of is, you've always been at an excellent program. and it's went from Western Kentucky to Pittsburgh to the Boston Celtics to Louisville to Iona to Seton Hall. Is there like some lessons, maybe two or three, that you learned along the way that have kind of made you into not only the coach but also the man that you are today? Because it seems like you haven't missed a beat with going from great program to great program.
Well, I think first and foremost, I got to play college basketball for my father, which was a curse for him, but it was phenomenal for me because
Right.
I wasn't a good enough player to win him enough games. But for me to see how my father coached up close and personal, and to see his demeanor and how he was with his players, for me, that first and foremost is what I take with me everywhere, is how my father was, and how much he loved his players and how much he invested into his players. Seeing that firsthand with him, being able to go through that journey with him, to me, it was something that I will never, ever forget. It's the greatest 4 years I ever spent with my father, because I got to see all the good times, I got to see all the bad times, and I got to see what it did to him, and how much he was invested in his players and how much he loved his players.
Right.
And I that's first and foremost what I took. And then the second lesson is, and I tell this to everybody, working for Rick Pitino, the one thing you learn more than anything is how to work hard. And he demands so much out of his assistants, and he gives so much responsibility to his assistants, that I learned first and foremost, if you want to be successful in this business, you have to work hard every day.
Right.
There's no day off. There's no, well, we've been getting in the office for 5:30 in the morning for the last 6 months. I'm not coming at 7:30. He did not allow you to have that attitude. And because you had to work so hard for him, that work ethic I carry every day. I still, this sounds crazy. When I get in the office, I still get nervous that my phone's going to ring. It's going to be him, seeing if I'm still in the office at the time I am. And I haven't been with him in the last 13 years. So that's how much he instilled work ethic, and that's how great of a coach he is that 13 years later, I'm still using the same habits that he taught me. And that's
Right.
why I always say my father was such an unbelievable coach, because I'm still using the same habits I learned from my father in today's generation. And those two things are what I've brought to everything, and I've tried to instill in all my staff.
Right. Is there like one piece of advice you'd give to an up and coming coach who's trying to reach a top program like you've reached?
Yeah, don't be in a rush, and don't worry about where you are and what you're doing. Try to find someone that you're going to really learn a lot from.
Right.
When I went to the Celtics, I think my first year I made $8,000 or something like that, and it was the best. It was the best investment I ever made. Because I was with a Hall of Fame coach, a Hall of Fame. I mean, a world-class organization. I mean, the people that work for the Boston Celtics are some of the greatest people that I'm still in touch with today. But I tell all the young guys, don't be in a rush. Don't worry about what you're making. Don't worry about anything besides trying to learn and be a sponge and absorb as much as you possibly can get, because it seems like today's young kids are like, they're in such a rush to kind of get somewhere, that when they get there, they're not prepared to get there.
Right.
And I think, you really got to make sure that it's almost like school. You got to learn your lessons. You got to learn, if you've never coached, you can't just jump on the floor and think that you're going to be able to all of a sudden put a play in or call timeout. And you have to learn how to do that. And you have to take your time to make sure that when you get your chance, you're ready to do it.
Right. So now I do want to kind of change the course here and kind of get into you as a person, just as like kind of the fun side of it, because we're at the tail end of this interview. I don't want to keep you too long. But so if you could give me 3 albums that you think people should listen to, a movie that you think people should watch,
Oh,
and maybe, since I know you're a big golfer, one golf course you think that an avid golfer should get out and try before the
oh,
end
geez. Oh
of
my,
it all.
the golf course one's tough. Yeah, I mean, the 3 albums I Licensed to Ill from the BC Boys is still very much always on my playlist.
Okay.
Um, you know, when I was growing up when I was in high school, it was the early '90s. So rap and hip hop was really like just exploding, and I think there were so many great talents, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoy that genre of music.
Yeah.
I always go back to the early '90s. Tupac and Biggie and all those guys, and I just loved it. I just loved how they always had an edge to them. I
Right.
love that music. Um, I hate to say it, I'm really into country music right now.
Really?
I know that doesn't mix very well. Early '90s and now country. But I love country. I love the stories country music. I'm a huge George Strait fan. So anything George Strait, I listen to. I was just listening to it before I got on with you.
Right. Nice.
And then I hate to say it, typical white guy. Dave, I love Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews.
I love Dave Matthews. I'm trying to get my son to learn how to play his stuff right now on guitar.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
then a golf course. The Cow Club in San Francisco is my favorite walk.
Nice. Okay.
I have my favorites that I go to when I need to get away. But if I could go walk a golf course right now, it'd be the Cow Club in San Francisco.
Right. And then do you have one movie?
Die Hard.
Die Hard, big Die Hard fan?
It's the greatest movie of all time. You can watch it at Christmas. You can watch it at night. You can watch it in the morning. It's got some of the greatest lines, and it was the one movie that my brother and I could agree on. That was a great movie.
That was a great movie. So before I let you go, I do want to kind of jump back to your love of hip hop and the game of basketball. So I used to be a basketball junkie when I was little. I've played on all the teams. I did the AAU circuit. I was at every Seton Hall game. And it seems like around the game of basketball, it's always been hip hop. So the reason why I fell in love with hip hop is because all my favorite players when I was growing up, they listened to hip hop. And do you think that the culture of hip hop and basketball are almost one and the same, and that the one needs the other, and like how your kind of love for hip hop seems to have come from your love for basketball as well? Do you think that that's an interesting intersection there?
I do think so, and I just think they complement each other very well.
Right.
I just think if you're going to go work out in the gym, and I don't want to listen to AC/DC or
Right.
it's, and I love AC/DC and I listen to them a lot, but I want I want that edge. I want to hear
Yeah.
that. I want to hear that beat and everything. And I think they both just complement each other very well.
Right.
And I admittingly, as my players would tell you, I am not up on the hip hop culture right now.
Right.
I always get dragged back into what I grew up on. And I just love that. I haven't been able to get into these new guys, but I love the music my guys play. I would have to go back to like Jay-Z, and everyone would be like, no, that's not right now. I'd be like, well, that's who I know.
Jay-Z is a forever talent though. And then I would be also remiss if I didn't at least talk to you a little bit about Miles Powell. He seems to have been, when he was brought in as a freshman, there was a lot of talk like, why did Coach Willard bring this kid in? But immediately from the jump, you saw his potential. He was losing weight. He got cut. And then this year, it was almost like a swan song. He was best player in the Big East by far. He was up for Player of the Year. What kind of, in those 4 years, what did you kind of go through sculpting this young man? And everyone that meets him, he's got a personality that you just love, and he's got that work ethic that you just love. And when he's out there, he's always holding up the Seton Hall on his jersey. Like, he really loves the school. And like those 4 years, what was kind of your, I guess, step process with him? And
Well, I always say this. First of all, Miles is as good a young man as you'll have. He has such a great heart. He really loves the people that invest in him.
right.
He's just he has an infectious personality that people love to be around. And I think Miles got very lucky. His freshman year was Angel, Kadeen, Ish, Desi's senior year.
Yeah.
And, I think being around those guys and watching how hard those guys worked, it really helped Miles understand how hard he has to work to be successful at this level. And Angel, Desi, Kadeen, Ish, Isaiah, Michael, those guys worked as hard as any group I've ever had, and it was every day. And for Miles to survive as a freshman, he had to change his whole mindset of what was working hard and what was going to work to be able to even get on the court against these guys. And as he kind of changed his mindset of what working hard was all about, we were able to kind of see this young man that had an unbelievable future. And we were able to work on things that I hadn't been able to work on with other guys, because I've never seen a player do what he could do. Is just so naturally gifted. And,
Right.
once it was his turn as a junior for this to be his program, this was his time to shine. He really stepped up and loved that. Love that. A lot of guys say, "Well, I want to be the man. I want to be the man," and then all of a sudden, it's their opportunity. They're like, "Ooh, I don't want to be the man." There's a lot that comes with this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Miles was not that way. I think Miles' personality and the fact that guys love to be around him and play with him. I think it gave him the confidence to kind of just take that next step. And I say, the last 4 years watching him grow and be around him have been the best 4 years as a coach, because it was fun to see him take the torch from the 4 seniors that left, that was such a great legacy on this program, and then he kind of just kept that going. And
Right.
he's a special young man. He's a special player, and I'm looking forward to watching him playing in the NBA next year.
Me too. Me too. Coach Hood, thank you so much for allowing me to interview. I have a million questions I wish I could ask, but we'll stop it there and keep it short. I really appreciate you coming on, and
No
good luck
problem,
next
Michael.
year. And
I appreciate it. Glad to be here. And anytime you want me on, I'll be on. You know that.
perfect. Thank you so much, Coach. Have a good night.